Hi, hello everybody. My name is Yua Gutierrez, and I'm here to talk to you about the small series on Netflix, Now You See Us. Now You See Us is based on the Central Five. This is based on a case that was dated back to 1989. And the case is just briefly about how they found a white young lady, jogger, raped and killed in Central Park. This case went so viral and it was such a high profile case because five young men were accused of raping and killing this young lady. But they had no evidence. There was no DNA, no physical evidence attaching them to the crime scene at all. It was just the state wanted to get a conviction, basically. They didn't have the DNA that they took out of the jogger didn't match any of the five young men. And I will say young, the youngest was 14 and the oldest was 16. So they were all underage. They were all in middle school and about to hit high school. So this case back in 1989 was so high profile, like I mentioned earlier. Everybody wanted to get them convicted. Everybody was following this case like crazy. It was all over the news. Even Donald Trump, I quote, "They should be forced and suffer, and they should be executed for their crimes." This man wanted blood. So he even paid reporters like $38,000, and he took out ads in a lot of newspapers. One of the biggest newspapers that he did take out ads was in the New York Times. And I quote again. It said, I quote, "Bring back the death penalty, bring back our police." So that's what he published all over the newspapers. So when this case went to trial, since it was such a high profile case, everybody was on it. All the reporters wanted it, everything. So like I mentioned earlier, they had no physical and no DNA evidence of these five young men. They were kids, not basically kids, they were kids. So at the end, they got convicted in 1990. They got convicted for various crimes, from rape, attempted murder. They all got charged, from the 14-year-old to the 16-year-old. And when these cops were trying to get the confessions out of these kids, they were beating them brutally. They didn't have no parent in the interrogation room. But how can we blame them? You know what I mean? The minorities usually don't get this kind of, you would say, legal responsibility or legal treatment, or how would they don't have any knowledge about how the legal system works. And I believe it's super sad. It's so sad that the parents had to be there. Some parents were present and they did see how bad their kid was getting harassed and attacked, that they say, "Hey, just confess to it. Maybe we can make a deal. You confess to another person." All they wanted was to take their kid home. And the cops used to beat them. Some of them did not have any parents, so they used to beat them. So everything that they got, they all wrote their confession and signed the confession without a lawyer present. So nowadays, I can still look back, even today, 2020, I can still look back and I can still see how minorities are getting targeted by law enforcement. We see various cases till this day, how they're getting targeted by law enforcement, police, anything. I just feel like our minorities should be taken care of better since we are minorities. I don't think no black or Hispanic man should be afraid to walk down the street or go to the park to hang out with their friends and then being charged with a murder and a rape. And they did, like I said earlier, they did get convicted in 1990. And they did spend 13 years in prison before the actual murder came up front and confessed. And the only reason that he confessed because he was already serving a life sentence. He was a serial rapist and a serial killer. So he was already convicted to all these crimes. So, like I said, if he would have never came back and this man would have never came back and said, you know what, it was me who did this rapings, those innocent boys will still be in prison to this day. The man that confessed, his name was Matias Reyes, and he did confess in 2002, so 13 years after these kids were in prison. Finally, in 2002, the district attorney said that this conviction should be voided, the boys should be free, and thankfully they were. And they ended up suing New York, and they got, I believe, $40 million. But I totally recommend for you to see this documentary on Netflix. You will not regret it. It just shows you how sad reality is for minorities, especially with people that have no legal knowledge about the system, and how police officers or any law enforcement take advantage of you not knowing your rights, you not knowing how to defend yourself, the right to an attorney, nothing. Like, these parents were so desperate for their kids. It's such a it's a small series, and I totally recommend for you to watch it. It will make you realize that sometimes the system fails us dramatically. Well, that's all for me. Thank you so much for watching, and hope you guys watch the series, and hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did.